Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Hello.
Clearly.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And last night, Mr. Umair has given us a wonderful lecture. He introduced the basic concepts of project management, especially focused on project planning skills. Tonight, as per schedule, Mr. Umair is going to teach us more details in planning. So, Mr. Umair, please share your screen and start the presentation now.
Hello everyone. Hope everyone is fine. So yesterday we discussed about the introduction and importance of project management and its key aspects and how we deal the different issues in project management. Then we have an overview of project classifications, project definition, its phase, and what are the main characteristics of a project. After that, we discuss about the project manager, what is his role and his JD, and what are his goals and aims. And later on, we discuss about what are the causes of project failure, why project fails, what are the major reasons behind it, and what is the purpose of project planning, how we initiate the planning work. And later on, we move to the P6 presentation and we have the introduction and advantages of P6. So we will continue our presentation from P6 today. So this was the last slide which we discussed yesterday, and we covered the advantage. What are the advantage of using the P6 software? So from today we will further move on and see what are the major aspects and features in this software. So this is a basic function of P6 explained in this diagram. So in P6, what are the input which we give to the software? We give it after we gain when we are going to schedule a project in P6, we give it WBS, we give it activity codes, we define OBS in it, activities, their relationships, calendars, constraint, resources, cost code, and cost centers. These are the input which we put in the P6. Then P6, what P6 do for us? He schedule it, and he defines a critical path in it, and he plan the resources as per activities. What are the output which we get from the P6? We get a schedule for our project, we get a critical path, that what is the critical path for our project. And we get, when later on, if we update our schedule, we get the progress analysis also. What is our planned progress, what is actual progress. And we get consolidated resource plan, and we can even get our forecast from the P6. Either it can be as per our requirement, we can have it 15 days or 1 month as we require. So this is the main purpose of P6 in our project planning and scheduling. So from now on, we will discuss some basic terminologies which we use in P6. So first we will go for what are the relationships we use in the activities in P6. There are 4 types of relationship, and relationship is basically with the activity and its predecessor and successor. What is predecessor and successor? Predecessor activity is activity before an activity is called its predecessor activity. Either it has a different relation, it has 4 type of relationship with it, but it is the activity which will start or which will finish as per its relationship, then our next activity will occur. What is the successor activity? The next activity is called the successor activity. So For example, if I give you an example, if I go to a car wash, I have a three activities here: car wash, then dry the car, and wax the car, wax or polish the car. So for drying the car is wash car is predecessor. First, I will wash the car. That is predecessor activity. Then it's what is its successor activity? It is dry the car. And what is dry the car activity? Successor activity is wax or polish the car. There are four types of relationships between these predecessor and successor activities. So one is start to start, other one finish to start, next is finish to finish, and next one is start to finish. What is start to start? It is explained here. If please see the screen, we have two activities. One is activity A, one is activity B. So start to start is that both activities will start at the same time or with some lag. Either we can put it with a lag in it. So both activities can start at the same time or with some lag. Then if activity B will only start, then activity A starts. So this is the start to start relationship. And for example, we can have it that either a simple routine example, I will give it that I am preparing for a birthday party. So I am baking a cake, and meantime I am also decorating it. So both our activities are start to start with, and I am starting both the activities at the same time. So both are start to start. And what is if I have start to start with some lag? I plan one activity and I plan that next activity start after 4 days of starting this activity. So this is called start to start with some lag. Other relationship is finish to start. It is very commonly used relationship in our routine life. So one activity is finished, then the next successor activity start. And again, we can put some lag here. So the first example I gave you regarding the car wash and dry the car, it is finish to start. First we wash the car. When this activity finish, then the next activity of drying the car start. So this is finish to start activity. Either we can also have it with some lag. That first activity A finish after 10 days. After it, we can have a lag of 1 or 2 days as per our requirement. Then the next activity B start. Third relationship which we can use is finish to finish relationship. In finish to finish relationship, both activities will finish at the same time. Their start can be different. Both activities can start at different times, but they will finish on the same time. Or if we put a lag with them, they will finish according same time with some lag. For example, activity A and B, they are starting at different times if you see the timeline, but they are finishing at the same time. So they are linked as a finish to finish activity. And another terminology relationship which you use is start to finish relationship. In this activity, activity A will start, then activity B will finish. So it's very uncommonly used relationship, but we have this opportunity to use this relationship. The basic purpose is that activity A will, when the activity A will start, on the same time activity B will finish. We have an example for this also to understand it much betterly. There is an example that we have two activities. Activity B is to lighten up our site facility. We are using our power generator. So and activity A is the connection of a power line to our site. So we have activity B continue, and it will not finish until the activity A start. Means we will keep on supplying the power through generator until we have our power line activity start. So I hope this example give you understanding of this relationship. And here is another thing, which is lag, which I have already explained. Lag is basically, it delays the first and second. It's a delay and stagger between the predecessor and successor activities. You can have the lag in all these relationships. And next terminology is early start or early finish. So what is early start is earliest possible start date by which an activity can start or finish. And late start or late finish, latest possible date by which an activity can start or finish. And actual start or actual finish is actual dates on which this activity is start or finish. This is put when we update the schedule. So what is this? We will have an exercise further to understand this early start and late finish, early finish. And what is the simple example is that if when we plan a schedule, there are some activities which have some float. So the next float defines that how much early we can start this activity or how much late we can start this activity. And this float is, we will discuss it further, then we will have a better understanding for this. Next is scheduling and critical path method. The process of calculating start and end dates of the activities. This process is carried out on two phases, forward pass or backward pass. The process of calculating early start and finish dates by each activity starting from the project start date, it's the forward pass. So if we schedule the project by choosing the option of forward pass, then it will calculate from the early start and finish. And if we go for the backward pass, it will calculate backward and show us the finish date. And what is the total float? There are two types of float, total float and free float. So positive total float indicates allowable duration of delay without affecting project finish line. So, and zero and negative float indicates timely completion of the activity is critical for timely completion of the project. As I explained earlier that in early start or early finish, we have some margin in the activity. Either we can start it early or start it a little late. So this margin is basically the float. If this activity has some float, we will have an option to start it early or start late. And if this positive float shows that this activity has this allowable duration to delay this activity, or you can have more duration in this activity. But if you have negative or zero float, it means if you delay this activity, it will impact your finish date. So all the activities which have negative or zero float, they are on critical paths, and normally they are shown red in the chart, and these are the activities which drive the project. If you have some delay in the critical activities, it represents that your project finish date. What is the formula P6 used to calculate the total float? It is late finish minus early finish, or late start minus early start. So if you have more float in your late finish minus early finish, it means you have more float in the, if the figure is bigger, it means you have more total float. If there is zero figure, it means you have no float. So you have to, your late finish or early finish date has to be same as per schedule. If there delays, then it means it will get carry on your project finish date ahead. What is the free float? Free float indicates the allowable duration of delay in start without affecting the start of successor activity. So basically, a free float is the float in which is in an individual activity, you can say, and if you have the free float in an activity and you delay its start, but for example, if I have planned an activity A, which is of 10 days and it has a free float of 4 days, but I delay my activity by 3 days and I start it after 3 days, still it has a float of 1 day, then this activity is not going to affect my next successor activity. So free float is basically how much you can delay an individual activity. The formula which P6 calculates for free float is early start of successor activity minus early finish of predecessor activity. minus 1. So here is a simple example to understand all these terminologies. In the chart, we have some activities in the first column. These are the activity names. And then in the next, we have some predecessor for these activities. And then there is the duration for these activities. So we have presented the start. If you go for the start activity, the first activity, it has no predecessor. It is the start activity. And for the next activity, C, its predecessor is start. Start activity is its predecessor. You can see it. We have mentioned the same here. C activity, its predecessor is start activity. Then B activity, its predecessor is also the start activity. B activity, start activity is its predecessor. And after it, we have activity A. What are its predecessors? It has three predecessors: C, B, and P. C, B, and P. So another concept is an activity can have multiple predecessors and multiple successors. So here you can see the activity A is having 3 predecessors and 2 successors. C, B, and P are its predecessor, and T and R is successor. So we have linked all these activities as per their predecessors, which are mentioned here. So for end activity, it has no predecessor, and it has no successor. It has only 3 predecessors: T, R, and N. In the next slide, we have mentioned their duration. Just see the legend. This above duration, this figure on the top of the block is its duration, and in the below side we have early start, early finish, late start, late finish, and S represent the slack or float. So in first activity, if we go from this path start, C, A, R, and N. In this activity, if we see what is its total duration, it's 7 plus 6 plus 3, 16 weeks. So this is the longest duration which we have, and this duration have no float. It's early start and early finish, early start or late start, these duration are same because we have no margin to delay this activity. But if we go for this path, start, B, A, R, N. So in this start, B, A, R, N, we have to check that how much margin we have in this. The total duration of this path is 4 plus 7 plus 3. It's equal to 14. So the total float which we have in this activity is only in this path. In this path, we have this float in this activity of B. We have float of 2, and we can delay this activity up to day 3, up to week 3. Either we start it on week 1 or we can start it on week 3, and it will not affect our end date. So this is the concept of early start and late start and float. What is the critical path? As we have seen in the last activity, this is our critical path. Why it is the critical path? Because this has no float and it is the longest part of the project. An activity that has potential of delaying a project is called a critical activity. Such activity possesses total float equal to 0 or even less. So if what happens if this activity A goes to week 8? If in this activity A we complete it in 8 weeks, what will happen? Our project will delay by 1 week, or we have to complete this activity in 2 weeks. Otherwise, our project will delay by 1 week. So if any delay happens in the critical path, it represents your end date. So what is the critical path? Everyone can listen to me easily?
Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes.
Okay, critical path. What is critical path? Critical path is basically the chain of activities that has the potential of delaying a project is called critical path. So if we see this example, this path start CARN. This is our critical path. And what are the critical activities? These 5 activities are critical activities. Critical path method. So this is basically a technique which we use in P6, a network analysis technique used to predict project duration by analyzing which sequence of activities has the least amount of scheduling flexibility. So what happened? What is the purpose of this critical path? Why we use this critical path method? Basically, when we schedule the activities and we have our critical path by P6, and when we analyze it, what we see that these are the critical activities which are affecting our projects. How we can manage them, whether we manage them in procurement, engineering, or construction. And what are the other activities which are on non-critical path, and if we delay them, is there any way that we can save some cost? For example, some activities we have planned too much earlier, and they have a lot of critical path, and we have to arrange a separate ship to send that material. But if we delay, if we have some float and we manage that activities later as per our critical path method, then we can save our some shipping cost, and we ship that material later with our other activities. So basically, critical path method will tell you which activities has how much float, and which is your how it's give you the analysis on your float paths. So which you know which activities you are going to focus, and what is the impact if certain activities are going to delay, which further activities are going to link with it and they will delay. In the last exercise, this is just what I have already explained to you. This is we have calculated the critical paths. How we calculated? We have added all the durations. So star CARN as the longest duration. So that is our critical path. What is constraint? Constraint are the limitation or ground realities that overrule the logical start or finish time of an activity. So basically, constraint are something that you put on the basis of some finding or some certain grounds that you put some limitation in the schedule. At some certain activities, you put the limitation that it will start or it will date start on this certain date on the some basis. And we have some example for it. A certain piece of equipment will be received on 25th of March. That equipment erection activity cannot start it before 26th of March, irrespective of the fact that foundation will be ready by 15th of March. So if we have a foundation and we have to place our equipment on it, and our activity is like this, that first we have the completion of foundation by 15th of March, which is finished to start with the arrival of equipment, which is on 25th of March, and we have put a constraint on it that this date is fixed on 25th of March. This activity cannot start before 25th of March. After 25th of March, we will have next activity of erection of the equipment. So basically, normally we put constraint in our schedule, and some of them are linked with our client, some are linked with the shipment of materials or some certain data receiving from the client. Here are some types of constraint which we can put on our schedule for the activity. First is start on, just which we discussed earlier, that you put a constraint that this activity start on this specific date. Then whether if it can start earlier as per their relationship, but it will not start due to this constraint. Next relationship is start on or before, means it can start on this date or before it. and the other one is start on or after, finish on or before, finish on or after, mandatory start finish, as late as possible. So these are some constraints which we can put on our milestones or some other activities which for which we have some certain dates. No, there are some other basic terminologies. One is man hours. What is the man hour in P6? So in P6, we have already, in the overview, we have discussed that we put our resource estimation in it, and it gives us the resource loading as per schedule. So what is the estimation? How we put it estimation in which form? It is normally done in the form of man hours. Man hours is a yardstick for measuring of effort. And an example is 4 man hours will be meant any of the following: 1 man working 4 hours, 2 men working 2 hours, 4 men working 1 hour. So this is the explanation of man hours. And next is standard man hours. Normally in as we discussed yesterday in project management, all the companies have their analysis. They put on their analysis in their system, and on the basis of that analysis, they further move to the next projects. So on that analysis basis, every company develops his standard that to complete one job, how much effort, how much man hours I require. For example, if I have to draw a earthing study, I need 400 man hours. This might be a standard in one company. Other company might have 350 man hours. So this standard varies for every company. And next terminology is earned man hours. On the basis of standard man hours, when we perform a work, we calculate how many man hours we earned from this. So for example, I have to do 100 cubic meter of concrete, and I say that to do this work, 2 man hours is my standard. So what will be total man hours required to do this work? 100 multiplied by 2, 200 man hours I will need to do this work. So I do 50 cubic meter of concrete. What will be my earned man hours? 50 multiplied by 200 will be my earned man hours. And what is the project budgeted man hours, which I already explained, that total quantity multiplied by standard man hours. And what is the actual man hours? So if I earn 100 man hours, it might not be, I actually consume 100 man hours for this. I might have consumed 80 man hours. I might have consumed 150 man hours. If I consume 80 man hours, it means my efficiency is good. It's less than 1. If I consume more than my efficiency, it's more than 1. My efficiency is good. If I consume more than 100 man hours, it means my efficiency is poor. For earning 100 man hours, I am consuming 150 man hours. So my efficiency is 0.5. I have to improve it. And next terminology is original or base plan. A plan showing all activities as foreseen at the start of the project. So basically, at the start of the project, when we develop a plan, we finalize it with management, our management, or client management, and then we freeze it. This is called our original or baseline plan. And you know, over the course of the project, there are things which keep on changes. So one is that you update your plan. Other is there is some other issues, some delays in deliveries or some delays in handing over the site from client, or due to some poor productivity, you might have delay in your production work. So you keep how you manage it, you keep on revising and updating your plan on some certain durations which you already agree. So that are called latest forecast plan. So when after 4 months or 5 months of my starting of my project, when I will revise my plan, this is called latest forecast. So that now I see that my project will finish on this date, and these will be the critical path, and these activities will be critical. What is efficiency? It is the ratio of earned man hours to actual man hours. What is productivity? Its number of work unit produced per man are spent. Next is cost center. A cost center is lowest identifiable measurable activity to which cost incurred can be booked. So basically, in P6, normally our activities are the lowest level at which we can measure the cost. So we assign our activities some cost centers if we want to if we want to lower the cost also in P6. What are the resources? Anything that is required to perform an activity is called a resources. In P6, you can have the option to upload 3 types of resources. They can be in the form of manpower, equipment, and material. So these resources are loaded against the activities you plan in P6. So when you give the input of these resources, what P6 gives, it gives you the loading of these resources. That if this month you need 400 manpower. In this month you need 500 manpower. In this month you need 2 cranes. In next month you need 4 cranes. This will be the output you will get from P6. Next is the Gantt chart, also known as bar chart. In P6, last day we have an overview of the screen. In one side we have the activities, on the other side we have a chart. So what this chart represents, a graphical display of the open project schedule information or the order in which activities occur over the course of the project. So what activity we have on the left side and its start finish date, it's represent a bar on the other side, and which shows that when it is starting and when it is finishing. The Gantt chart also shows each activity's duration using the time scale specified as a horizontal bar, and a line connecting activity bars indicates a relationship. And what is the, I just showed here, you can see on the right side of the screen, every activity has some bar for it. This bar shows that how much is its duration. And there are some links between these bars. Some are red and some are blacks. These links are called the relationships, which we are already discussed. There are 4 types of relationships which we discussed. Their relationships are shown as the form of these arrow bars. What is data date? So as we earlier discussed that we update the schedule. It's not only that we make the schedule one time and then keep on following it. When we make the schedule after some certain time, either it can be 2 weeks or 1 month, whatever we decide, we update the schedule. And when we update the schedule, we fix a date that up to this date, I update all my activities and I put their progress in the schedule, and then I update with that data date, I schedule it. What P6 do? We take the progress which I have entered and schedule all the activities, which are planned before that data date, and I have not started, he will move them ahead. And which activities which are as per plan or ahead of plan, he will adjust their successor activities. Sorry. So data date is basically the line or point in time that separate actual data from future data. So this is the chart which I have explained to you. Today I have already told you in the group that today we will be doing 2 exercises. One will be creating an OBS in P6 and other will be EPS. So I will just explain to you what is EPS and what is OBS. Structuring project, setting up and define EPS. And so EPS is basically in P6, EPS represent our enterprise project structure, what our company's project structure. How is our company structure? Yesterday we when we discuss the classification of project, we discussed that companies classified on different bases. Some classified on its nature, some durations. So on that basis, every company has its own EPS. In the EPS, we define the project, and in project we define WBS. In WBS, we put the activities. Similarly, for EPS, when every company define a structure, for every structure, they have some persons who are responsible. That is called organizational breakdown structure. So, what is EPS? EPS is enterprise project structure is hierarchical based structure that represent how your projects are organized. EPS consists of roots and nodes. All project must reside within an EPS node. So for creating a project in P6, you need an EPS. A project must be assigned to a EPS. This is a basic example for you, in which we have a EPS of which head node is HDEC. Further has 3 sub nodes. One is QUR, AFA, and miscellaneous. So if I have to make a project in P6, I have to go for any of this node. If I am making it for some Alphalia AFA, so I will add the project in AFA. So this is a sample for EPS for you. And every EPS is defined to a person. So for HDEC, I have who is the responsible person? It's the CEO HDEC. What is this responsibility? This is called organization breakdown structure. So for EPS, of course, with EPS you have your company structure, and when you are breaking the company structure, it means that there will be some persons also to represent and who will be the responsible person for that EPS structure on that different nodes. So that is called OBS. OBS is hierarchical arrangement of an organizational management structure. So this is example. There is a CEO which is further ahead to different departments, and that department can further be on other sides also. OBS represent a project organization structure that match with WBS and facilitate better control through mini projects with large and complicated projects. Define responsibility for each level of WBS. So an OBS can be assigned to the multiple projects also, multiple EPS levels. This is just a sample for you to understand how the OBS general OBS in a construction project goes. It's a project manager on the top, and then construction managers, area in charge, is engineers of different categories and how they are reporting. So after this presentation, if you have some questions, we can go to the questions, and then we move to the exercise.
Well, I have one question about the EPS. That means
Yes.
The information can be shared together. For example, for one project, when you set a baseline schedule, and I assign the department like construction, engineering, procurement, and that means I can authorize them to access this baseline schedule. Then they can all the update from the planning department can be shared with every department timely, right?
Yes. Yesterday I told you that we can, in the advantage of P6, we discussed that we can use it on the centralized database. So when we have a centralized database, everyone can, if he has the login and password, he can access it and he can see the progress, and he can see and even update the progress if he has the right.
That means we just need to assign who is in charge of construction, for example, the construction manager, engineering
Yes.
manager. Then after you finalize the baseline schedule, they can access, but they can modify or not.
It depends on their security profile, how much access the admin give to them. If we give them the full access, they can modify also, they can update it and modify also.
Basically, I don't want them to modify. I just want to them to follow the updated one. Because if sometimes you update the schedule,
you give them the right to read only.
Yes, that's perfect, I think. Because every time people come to me say, what's the updated schedule? I need to know my to develop my plan based on the updated schedule. But it will be, let's say, updated regularly, right? So they in the future, they no need to come to me. They just, okay, please open your software and see what's the updated one. Then you just follow the updated one. That's all.
Yes, but for this you need to have a centralized baseline. If you are having a standalone, then they cannot see it. If you have a centralized baseline which everyone can access it, then they can see it.
So it's based on the license which we procured from.
Yes. Normally for centralized baseline, you use the license version.
Okay.
And also, let me add one thing. There will be the issue of number of users for one license.
So yes, I think this is useful. We no need the company level because nobody will care as a project what is happening. The people only care about what is happening on my project, right? Nobody will access, for example, nobody will access the Vietnam project if you are working in KSA, or Vietnam project, their team members will never access KSA project. So people just take care about their own project. So this, okay, I got it. Maybe we need to consider to procure the project level license. Okay, I have no more questions from my end. Please continue. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Umair, I have a question regarding the critical path method.
Exercise, which I already shared. Yes.
Yes, I have a question regarding the critical path method. Will you please open the last slide of critical path where you have shown the exercise? Yes, this one.
Yes.
In this exercise, you have told that the critical path is CAR, right? So my question is, do we need to just focus on the float, free float, or we also need to see that which is the lowest critical path? Because if we see the lowest critical path is PAT, means not critical path, but the lowest path, lowest timeline is PAT, where the result is 12 weeks or 12 days. So do we need to only focus on free float?
I think I covered this point. If we have so many float in one activity, and late starting that activity can benefit us in some other ways. I just gave the example. For example, I have to ship an material, and I have planned it very early, and I have a float of 2 months in it. from the other activities. So if I late start this activity and 1 month or for 45 days, and then I ship it with other activities, then it might save me some cost in shipping. So we also see that if we have so many highest number of floors, then we link these activities to the other activities.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
So now we continue to the exercise. Either you can, if it is possible for all of you to split your screen, you can split your screen half to the Move and half to P6, or first I demonstrate the exercise and then you also continue to perform this. It's up to you how you are comfortable with it. So in the exercise, first we open the P6 and we will have some data configuration. So we will go to admin and add admin preference. Here we will put on the, we will select the time period. Here we are considering the 10 hours per day kilometer. So we will, and 6 days per week. So we will now modify here as per this. This is the first step. Next step is we will go to the user preference. In the time unit, we will select hours and we can have the decimal up to 2. And duration format, we will select day option and decimal up to 0. And in the assistant tab, you can uncheck this one. It will open the wizard whenever you are writing the activities. So we are just unchecking. And after doing that, we will close this one. So as we discussed earlier, that whenever we have to create a project in P6, what are the things we need is EPS for it. We need some structure, we need some company structure that where we will do this project, we will add this project. And every EPS has someone or some responsible person. So first thing what we will do is we will create an EPS. Obvious option is in the enterprise. We will go to enterprise. We will select yes. So this window will open here. Either we can add a new OBS structure here, or we can just modify this already here, the structure already present here. So we will modify this structure here. We will click on this enterprise option. Then on your systems, you will have a window open. You just have to locate. So we will rename this as CEO HDEC. And now this is the main head of our EPS structure. But he will have different departments under him, and we will just do it here. So as per exercise, we can make it. One is renewable energy. Another department is having, he will have thermal energy, and one can be hydro energy.
Sorry, Mr. Umer. Here, can we discuss based on
Yes.
the project wise? Like the first level is project manager. The second level maybe different department like as
Wait,
engineering,
I show you.
construction.
Basically, for
And one more
EPS,
thing, Mr. Umer, can you please adjust your micro a little bit because there's a
is
lot
it
of
clear?
background noise. Hello?
Okay, is it okay now?
A little bit better, but the noise is still there. Okay, no issue. You continue,
Okay.
but maybe we can adjust from the next time.
Okay, I will just explain what you are saying. So for every department, we will further go to the other obvious levels. So like this, if you, for your question that we can start from, we will assign the project to this project manager. Then we can further add another obvious level of construction managers and site managers. So, and every WBS can be assigned to the relevant persons like this. This is the obvious structure. So this is just a sample obvious structure which we are making. And now after making the obvious structure, we will go and we will make our company EPS and assign the relevant head to the relevant obvious structures.
Right. If we, in doing so in this way, basically, the management based in the headquarters, there's no need to ask the project team what is
No,
they just
if our
need to open. We just need to let each project to develop their schedule in this system, and the PMO office can directly access each project to check what they are going on, how many floors they have,
yes, you are right.
whether they have any delay
Yes.
or they have go ahead. It's perfect.
So that's why I have put mainly the head of the company is on the top, and then every managers. After it, we can which level we want to go to in our WBS. You have the centralized database, everyone can access and check on their own. So this is the obvious structure which we have mentioned in our exercise. So we have developed this one. We will close this window. And next exercise is the creating of EPS structure. We will go to enterprise. We will click on the EPS. So here there are some structures I have. I will start from a new structure. This is the structure which I am going to make. This is the new structure. I have given a table in the exercise, and I will make this structure as per that exercise. So what is the first level of our company? It's the name of the company. It is the top level of the company. And with every EPS, we will give a person responsible. So this is the top level. Who is the responsible person on the top level? It is the CEO. Please close your mic. Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. This is the first level, and on the first level, we are assign it the CEO to the first level. Then on the next level, we will go for HDEC. Who is the person responsible for this? It will be the director of this department. So we will assign the responsible person for thermal division. Director of thermal division will be the responsible person. For hydro division, director of hydro division will be the responsible. So this is the EPS structure. And what will be the benefit now? Why we have made this EPS structure? Now, our renewable energy department has got a wind project. We need to create its schedule. So we will create a schedule, and we will have to give a EPS that in which department this schedule is, where on which company structure this schedule will go. We will select HDEC-RE, HDEC Renewable Energy Division, and we will assign the project manager of HDEC Renewable Energy to that schedule. So this is the purpose of EPS. So this is the first 3 exercises which we are going to do today. If you have done it in parallel, okay, otherwise you can do it now. And if you have any questions, you can ask me.
it is the excellent tools for the management, but it is a bad news to the project team.
But actually, it gives them the benefit to
They
project
cannot
team
hide
also.
anything if they have delayed the project for 1 month. Everything is under everybody's eyes, right? People cannot hide
Yes,
anything.
but if you have a better control and management, it also help you in other ways also.
Right,
Of
right,
course,
right.
you have to do more works, but it help you in other ways. For if they know that this is the schedule, and these onshore activities are on critical path, and these manufacturing activities are on critical path, so they might push them on their own. They will help you.
Exactly.
Or they can even tell you that, oh, your project needs some further resources, some extra resources. You can have them. They can allow you.
Right. Because before we just understand this like for the individual project, we just think it is only a tools to develop the schedule. But now I understand that it is a management tools.
Yes, basically, this point this is the advantage of P6. We discuss it that if we have the centralized data, all the data is centralized, then management can access it. It's a big tool, and it also has
Right.
another advantage, which is very good, that you can link it with your other softwares also. For commercials or finance, they can from the schedule they can have the updated versions, that what the updated activities progress is, and which activity need have more cash flows, or what procurement forecast they can have on their own also. So for today's, you can complete these 3 activities, which I have already shared to you. And if you have any problem, you can ask in the group. And you should complete these 3 activities. You have this OPS and WPS structure created in your system. Then all the next activities linked with this. If you have this structure, then you can do the next exercise. And you have to do everyday exercise with me, so that at the end of the day, when we have completed our exercise, we have the same results. If we do not do it in the same way, our end result will not match. You will have a different finish date, different critical paths, and different loading type, so it will not match. And further to know you, you will be given a project to make at the end of the training. So it's better you clarify everything. If you have if you have to know anything about the CPS, OBS, you can ask in the group while making them.
Yes, I want to emphasize the guys who is nominated by the department. You have to finish all the exercise, and after the training, we will have an examination. So I remember it's 8 or 10 colleagues here. Please pay attention. Raise any questions if you have.必须要强制学的各位同事啊，你们就是重点关注一下，有问题提一下，也可以在群里面提，好吧？因为这次完事之后，我们肯定要有差不多8名到10名的同事要把这个东西给弄起来的。 Okay, if you don't have questions, I think we can end the meeting today. And any questions, if you have, you can raise in the WeChat group. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Umair. Thank you.
Please, everyone.